It's time for game number 2 here. We are in the semifinal for the ESL Pro Tour NA Weekly Cup number 3. In the bottom right, leading the series 1-0, we have the Red Zerg player. Her name is Scarlett. Scarlett. I gotta use my cool stuff more. I gotta use my toys more, even when I'm casting. Her opponent in the northwest, the blue Terran player. He is Polt. Man, Scarlett made Polt look silly in that last game. I mean, I think this is one of the hard parts about playing bio, is when you play very greedy into bio and the Zerg can kind of establish themselves to the point where they can bleed out a little bit, it gets really hard to build that momentum, which is another great reason to play mech versus Zerg. And I know I'm a broken record. Oh yeah, Nathan's just another mech baby. Look, it doesn't matter what you think of me, ladies and gentlemen. Mech, in my honest opinion, is significantly better than bio in this matchup. And for Scarlett, she's also really good against mech because she's one of the better Nidus Swarmhost players. She still does it very aggressively versus mech. A lot more players have started to pick that up against mech because honestly, it's so hard to stop an army of Thors with Liberator Hellbat support that you kind of have to play like Ravager, Swarmhost, Corruptor or something against mech to keep it from snowballing into that big army. Because once a Terran hits 180 supply and they've got like 7 Thors, killing that army is so difficult. You need like blinding clouds with lurkers and a flank and mega counterattacks, but ranged liberators are pretty good against a lot of the things that are good against Thors. So that analysis is worthless because it's most likely going to be another bio game. Now here's an interesting shakeup. Polt says, okay, I can't really be greedy against Scarlett. That doesn't seem to work. Trying to play greed versus greed against Sasha is not going to give me what I need. Now, keep in mind, Scarlett did not go for as fast of a third in this game. Last game, she had it before the Reaper showed up. This game, she gets it a little bit after. She's also taking the forward one. That's a little bit up front. That's going to help push the creep spread out on the map towards Polt. It does mean she'll have to spend probably a little more attention to get it over here later on, but I think it's safe to say that Scarlett is maybe the only player in StarCraft that we don't really have to worry about when it comes to creep spread. But yeah, Polt went for the second gas instead of the third command center. So instead of going for the really, really fast third command center, Polt says, I'm just going to get my second gas, go right into the Hellions, build the starport, and I'm going to assume right now, based off what I'm seeing, probably something along the lines of like maybe a Liberator Hellbat push or a Battlecruiser Hellbat push. Every time that Polt has done a regular Hellion Battlecruiser play, it has always been off of that 3 command center build. So I think to get the gas this much faster, I just assume that he's got to be thinking about something a little bit more than what he's already been doing. The Reaper does get picked off, and he's not really aware of anything going on in Scarlett's base, but as the observers, as the caster, we can all safely agree that there is nothing weird going on here. Scarlett's just now going to take her extra gases. Could see the lair start up. I feel like it's probably a little late for her to be trying to go into like an earlier Roach Warren attack. And wow, look at that. So instead of just a safety Banshee, Polt says, I'm going to go Cloak Banshee Hellion, a slightly later third command center. And the reason for this is just to try and apply the pressure faster than usual. This scares me a little because I do feel like Banshees are such an off meta pick. Like you really only build Banshees if you think you're going to be attacked. Which based on everything that we've seen so far, it doesn't seem like that's going to be something Polt needs to worry about just yet. Now, I don't hate Banshees in general, but I do think that generally for the investment you have to make, which is actually surprisingly close to a battlecruiser, because you have to research Cloak for them to do anything, it ends up becoming a lot closer in terms of the resource investment. Basically, sans the fusion core, it gets pretty similar. But Banshees just generally don't do a whole lot. They're not usually very productive units, especially if you're going into bio, because you don't want to build more Banshees. You want to put your starport onto a reactor so that you can build, you know, medevacs for your Marines. And this is kind of what I was talking about. These Hellions are going to poke the front. And I don't know if Polt's rattled, but he's got 2 Banshees. So he's going to try and one-shot some drones. It's not easy to do that. Well, let's see. Because almost every Zerg player by default builds spores in every base. There really is no reason not to. A, it gives you detection in scenarios like this. B, it's the only way to not die to battlecruiser rushes. And since the battlecruiser rush is the most popular build in the game, well, yeah, honestly, I just think Cloak Banshee openings are just weaker battlecruiser openings. They're basically just a weaker version of a BC opening because these guys die real quick. Now, there is some value to having these if he doesn't lose them, right? We've got a lot of roaches being built by Scarlett. She's definitely thinking about pushing Polt when he takes this third. She is definitely thinking about blowing up the third base of this Terran player as he goes for it because there's only going to be 1 tank. And this is Nightshade. So if you put the tank here, right here, it can't hit anything here. So you can push on the east side easy. You can even push a little bit here. If you put the tank here in range of these areas, they can push up this ramp right here. So you literally need to have multiple tanks out to defend an attack like this. But Scarlett's even bringing her queens, and there's Ravagers to boot. This tank can't even hit the left side of the ramp if any of these Lings try to run by, so it's quite a tricky conundrum to be in. The Banshees are nice here, but there is an Overseer, and it's sieged. With this many queens nearby with +1 attack, I don't see how they're going to do anything. Sasha is looking for a quick victory here against Polt. Goodbye, El Tanko de Sijo. SCV's trying to repair the Banshees, but with this many +1 queens, I can't believe that's my analysis, +1 queens. I mean, really, though. Having that extra damage output makes these Banshees worthless in trying to kill them. You really just need so many siege tanks to hold on to a push like this. And now the Banshees are able to get some hits on the Ravagers because they got a little bit forward from where the queens are. This siege tank's getting some good shots off. I'm starting to like it. I'm liking this a little bit more. Polt is doing everything he can to hold on to this. Great contaminate onto the factory. Polt cannot build his next siege tank, but the roaches have made it into the main. The siege tank has been smited, whatever the proper word for that past tense is. It's been erased off the face of the planet. And Scarlett has roaches and queens inside of Polt's base. There are 5 queens here. 2 Banshees are not going to be enough, especially since queens have 2 more range than Banshees. So they're very easily able to shepherd them out of the way. A lot of this really just comes down to Polt went for a slightly more technical opening, slightly less greedy in a weird way, you could say. But it wasn't greedy it wasn't like not greedy in the right way, basically. Not really realizing what was happening. He kind of went for a very standard opening against a very, very sharp push from Scarlett. And repairing battlecruisers could be really good against this. And maybe Polt does eventually clean most of this up. I don't really know how he does that. But, well, let's just say it's not looking all that good, Kev. These roaches are going to find the SCVs that ran away. So 33 SCVs killed. And now someone will remind me that orbital commands are very good. And as long as you have 3, you're fine. Except one of the orbital commands died. 2 orbital commands is not 3. And I would actually agree that if you have 3 orbital commands, for the most part, you're never out of a game. That's the real Terran meme. If you have 3 orbitals in a dream, anything can happen. And Polt starts as +2 attack because he's like, well, maybe if I get a weird upgrade advantage, I'll be able to punch through an army because roaches are supply. You know, they're inflated supply. But with just 2 command centers, rebuilding that economy is going to be so hard. Plus, you're trying to scan. How are you going to clear the creep and mine when you have 30 SCVs and 2 orbitals? No, I love this. I mean, Scarlett's attack was so sharp. It was beautifully executed. Honestly, watching this game makes me think, I'm like, dude, if you're a Zerg player and the Terran is silly enough to open Banshees and waste the money on Cloak, like a Terran's going to build Cloak Banshees? Yeah, send the Queens. Send the Queens with an Overseer. The Queens don't care about Banshees. As long as the 2 Banshees can't just kill all the Ravagers so that they can't use Bile, you're good. The Queens protect the Ravagers. The Ravagers take out the key units, and then the Roaches just kill everything else and soak up tons of damage from SCVs, Marines. It's a big army here for Polt. So, I mean, it's not like it's impossible for Scarlett to throw this, but she has so much. She's maxed out. It's 200 supply versus 100. as Scarlett makes her push forward. The Ravagers throwing the biles down onto the siege tanks. 3 of them being erased one at a time. And Scarlett's +2 attack is actually going to finish before any of Polt's do. Oh, yeah. Needs to get that bile down in the tank. 1 and 2, and it's so close. Yeah, once the tank is gone, that's it. So is Polt. Super dead. GG. Scarlett takes a series 2-0 very convincingly.